Hello everyone, and welcome to my playthrough of Bageltop's Marvel Legendary campaign. Today we are going to be taking on mission number 13 in the Paint the Town Red campaign, where we will be swinging around with Spider-Man and trying to cross off everything on his to-do list. Let's not waste any time, let's jump into a summarized version of this mission's campaign. Looking at our list of things to do, we only have enough time to do one more thing before we head off for our S.H.I.E.L.D. mission. Had a pretty rough day so far, so let's go visit Mary Jane to relax. As you're approaching Mary Jane's house, it feels as if something is off. As you arrive, Peter quickly breaks through the front door to find Mary Jane tied to a chair. Standing between her and Peter is a masked woman in a red and yellow jumpsuit, with webbing between her arms and torso. Peter leaps in front of Spider-Woman. Little Miss Muffet is next door. I think you've got the wrong address. Spider-Woman puts up both hands and says, "Peter, I need to speak with you. Trust me, this was the only way. I'm currently trying to infiltrate Hydra. They sent me here to kidnap Mary Jane in order to prove my loyalty, but I never intended of taking her in. I just want to talk." She unmasked herself. "Here, my real name is Jessica Drew. Now you know my real name too. I'm a friend, honestly. The thing is, Hydra is monitoring all digital messages and phone calls, so this was the only way I could tell you. I'm so sorry. Hydra has a lead on your real identity. For all I know, they might already have it. Capturing Mary Jane was supposed to be a ploy to confirm your identity once and for all. However, if I take Mary Jane to another location and you pretend that you weren't ever here, I would be able to gain access to Hydra's central server and delete all records they have on your identity." We ponder over our options, and in the end we decide to allow her to take Mary Jane to a safe location, though Mary Jane is not happy about it. Spider-Woman accomplishes her mission and returns back. Write down, Spider-Man data deleted from Hydra, and Mary Jane doesn't trust Peter. The time is 5 p.m. We add Spider-Woman to the team, replacing Cyclops. As your watch beeps for 5 p.m., we head off to meet with Nick Fury for S.H.I.E.L.D.'s next mission. You arrive on the outskirts of a high-security prison where Nick Fury is waiting. This is a secret detainment facility run by the CIA. Our target, Mark Spector, got the wrong kind of attention from them and ended up here. Guy's crazy, goes by the name of Moon Knight. Thinks the moon talks to him, pretty much textbook lunacy. But with as insane as the world is today, we could use a little more crazy on our team. I want you two to go in and recruit him. We fight our way through the guards and make our way to Moon Knight's cell. After some convincing, he joins our team, replacing Colossus. Moon Knight looks directly at you again. This time, however, there seems to be a slightly white glow in his eyes. I could feel something dire. There's a great evil coming to the city. A fiendish monster is coming, and those behind him will not stop until they turn the whole city into monsters. Moon Knight shifts his gaze to Spider-Man, points at him and shouts, "This is all because of him." Spider-Man looks confused and says, "What did I do?" "They have taken your blood, which contains great power, and combined it with a living substance from space." An explosion outside causes everyone to head to the nearest window to look out. They see the explosion has left a purple cloud cascading down the streets. You spot an older man in a winged costume spraying gas from a canister over the city. Spider-Man yells out, It's the Vulture, we've got to stop him." Spider-Man leaps out the window. "I'll run ahead and try and distract him," he shouts. "You bring the rest of the team around." As you arrive at the city, you see Spider-Man already trying his best to stop the Vulture, but the purple cloud has already begun descending over the population. You hear screams come from the people in the streets. Looking over, you could see that the purple haze has started to mutate the civilians. Some are growing extra arms and legs, others are producing webs or climbing buildings. Are they turning into some sort of spider hybrid? To make matters even worse, another being shows up, though you're not sure it begins to even qualify as a being. Entirely in red, its appendages disappear and reappear in a grotesquely fluid motion. It tears the heads off of some nearby citizens, reveling in the carnage. The other spider-transformed citizens join in the gruesome celebration. The red being notices Spider-Man and yells out, "Spider-Man, we have found you. This is so much more fun than being trapped in your stupid lab. We shall give you a lesson in Carnage." The other villains in the area, along with mutated spider-like civilians, join Carnage. It seems as if he has an army following him. Moving to setup, we're going to be taking on the Splice humans with spider DNA scheme. This will include 8 twists, and we must use the Sinister 6 villain group. As a special rule, each member of the Sinister 6 will have an additional +3 HP, and all heroes will have wall crawl, meaning that when they are recruited, they go to the top of the deck instead of in the discard pile. When a twist is drawn, each player will put a Sinister 6 villain from their victory pile on top of the villain deck, and then we will play 1 card from the villain deck. If 6 of the Sinister 6 escape or the villain deck runs out, evil will win. Our Mastermind is Carnage, who has 9 HP, and when we draw a Master Strike, he will feast on each player. meaning he will KO the top card of each player's hero deck. If he feasts on a 0-cost hero, that player will gain a wound. Following the campaign guide means he will be assisted by the Maximum Carnage and Sinister 6 villain group, along with the Sentinels as his henchmen. Our starting HQ consists of Climbing Claws, which will grant us 2 recruit and an additional 1 when activated by an instinct card. Radioactive Spider, which grants 3 recruit, but we must place a card from our hand on top of our deck. Pickpocket, which will reveal the top card of a player's deck and gain attack equal to that card's printed recruit and attack value. Jinx, which grants 3 attack, and will reveal the top card of each player's deck. We can discard any number of them. And Venom Blast, which will grant 3 attack and reveals the top card of that player's deck. If it has a recruit icon, they draw it. Miles goes first because my son said so, and starts us off. Miles draws 4 agents, 2 troopers, and then a sentinel from the villain deck, which when fought will have us KO a hero. He plays out and decides to get a boost of recruit next turn with Radioactive Spider, knowing he will have an unneeded trooper next hand. It's replaced by Lunar Communion, which grants 2 attack, and when we defeat a villain on the rooftops, we will KO a card from our hand or discard. He also recruits Pickpocket, which should offset the disadvantage of Radioactive Spider, as we can stack the top of our deck with what we want, even using it to convert recruit into damage. It's replaced by another copy of Pickpocket, which he recruits, and is replaced by Great Responsibility, which grants 1 attack and reveals the top card of our deck. If it costs 2 or less, we draw it. A solid first turn. He passes. Harrison draws an identical hand of 4 agents and 2 troopers, and then another sentinel from the villain deck. He plays out and moves in on Moon Knight by recruiting Climbing Claws, replacing it with Bioelectric Shock, which grants 2 attack, and we reveal the top card of our deck. If it has an attack icon, we draw it. He passes. Miles draws 1 agent, 2 troopers, Radioactive Spider, 2 pickpockets, and then a doppelganger from the villain deck, whose HP is equal to the hero card's recruit cost below it. When we defeat him, he feasts on each player. He plays Radioactive Spider, placing an agent on top. He then recruits Lunar Communion, placing it on top of his deck, and replacing it with Perfect Hunter, which will draw a card and deal 1 damage. He plays out, targeting his own hero deck with both pickpockets, revealing Lunar Communion twice. He decided to take out both Sentinels rather than Doppelganger, as his HP could potentially go down to 2 later. He KOs both of his troopers. He passes. Harrison draws 4 agents, a trooper, Climbing Claws, and then a Demogoblin from the villain deck. When he enters, he will capture a bystander, and when he is defeated, he will feast on both players' decks. He plays out and decides to grab Venom Blast, replacing it with Arachnopheromones, which when played will allow us to recruit a hero from the HQ for free, and if activated by a spider friend, we can place it on top of our deck. He passes. Miles draws 5 agents, Lunar Communion, and then a Sentinel from the villain deck. He plays out and nabs up another high damage card in Jinx, replacing it with Pickpocket. He passes. Harrison draws 2 agents, 3 troopers, Venom Blast, and then a bystander from the villain deck, which the Sentinel captures. He plays Venom Blast, revealing and drawing an agent. He plays out and takes out the Demogoblin, rescuing a bystander, and then feasting an agent. He wants to keep up with the theme of playing off the top of his deck and manipulating it, so he recruits Great Responsibility and Pickpocket, replacing them with Venom Blast and Leap from Above, which will grant 3 attack and an additional 2 if activated by an instinct hero. He passes. Miles draws 2 agents, a trooper, 2 pickpockets, Jinx, and then a Hobgoblin from the villain deck, which will capture a paramedic when he enters the sewers, and his HP is actually 8 due to the scheme. He plays Jinx, revealing Climbing Claws, for Harrison, and an agent for himself, which he discards. He plays both pickpockets targeting Harrison's deck, revealing Climbing Claws both times. He plays out, and is 1 short of hitting Carnage. He takes out Hobgoblin, rescuing the paramedic. He passes. Harrison draws 3 agents, a trooper, Great Responsibility, Pickpocket, and then a Scheme Twist from the villain deck. Miles puts the Hobgoblin he just defeated back on top of the villain deck and draws it. He plays Responsibility, revealing Climbing Claws. With not enough recruit to buy anything from the HQ, he plays a trooper and Pickpocket, revealing Climbing Claws. He takes out the Sentinel, rescuing a bystander, and KOs an agent from his hand. He passes. Miles draws 4 agents, a trooper, Radioactive Spider, and then a Master Strike from the villain deck. He feasts on an agent from Harrison, and a Jinx from Miles. Harrison gains a wound. He plays out, placing the trooper back on top of his deck. With a large amount of recruit and high costing HQ, he recruits Arachnopheromones to clear it out even quicker, replacing it with Crescent Moon Darts. This card will grant 3 attack, and we can draw an instinct or a tech hero from the top of our deck. He passes. Harrison draws 2 agents, a trooper, pickpocket, venom blast, climbing claws, and then a carrion from the villain deck. When we defeat him, we feast, and if he feasts on a card that costs 1 or more, he is placed back into the city where he was defeated. He plays Venom Blast, revealing and drawing an agent. He plays out except for pickpocket. He nabs up Moon Darts, which goes to the top of his deck, replacing it with climbing claws. He then plays the pickpocket, revealing Moon Darts. At this point, he realized that if he fights Carrion or Doppelganger, he will lose the Moon Darts. Not willing to give that up, he passes. Miles draws 2 agents, a trooper, Arachnid Pheromones, pickpocket, Lunar Communion, and then a Sentinel from the villain deck. He plays out except for Arachnid Pheromones, learning his lesson from Harrison. He reveals an agent from pickpocket. He fights Carrion, which feasts on an agent. He then plays Pheromones, recruiting Leap from Above, replacing it with Perfect Hunter. He passes. Harrison draws 2 agents, 2 troopers, Great Responsibility, Moon Darts, and then a Doppelganger from the villain deck. He plays Responsibility, revealing and drawing a trooper. He plays Moon Darts, revealing Venom Blast. He plays out and takes out a Sentinel, KOing a trooper, knowing that Venom Blast is on top of his deck and isn't willing to KO it. He passes. Miles draws an agent, a trooper, 2 pickpockets, Leap from Above, Pheromones, and then a Sentinel from the villain deck. He plays Pickpocket, revealing Lunar Communion from the top of his deck. He then plays Pheromones, recruiting Venom Blast, replacing it with Leap from Above. He plays Pickpocket, revealing Venom Blast. He plays out and has enough to hit Carnage for the first time. He draws Drooling Jaws, feasting on an agent from Harrison, and Miles' Venom Blast. Harrison gains a wound. He passes. Harrison draws 1 agent, 1 trooper, Venom Blast, Climbing Claws, Pickpocket, Wound, and then a Scheme Twist from the villain deck, which has no effect. He plays Venom Blast, drawing an agent. He plays Pickpocket, revealing an agent. He plays out, and with the agent on top of his deck, he takes out the Doppelganger in the streets, feasting on a trooper. He then recruits Perfect Hunter to give a little more support to Moon Knight, replacing it with Great Responsibility. He passes. Harrison draws 3 agents, 1 trooper, Lunar Communion, Venom Blast, and then a Master Strike from the villain deck. He feasts on an agent for both decks, giving them both a wound. He plays Venom Blast, drawing an agent. He plays out and takes out the Doppelganger, feasting on Radioactive Spider. He recruits Bioelectric Shop to up his damage count, replacing it with Flip Out. He passes. Harrison draws an agent, 2 troopers, Great Responsibility, Moon Darts, Perfect Hunter, and then a Bystander from the villain deck, which the Sentinel captures. He plays Perfect Hunter, drawing an agent. He plays Great Responsibility, drawing a Pickpocket. He plays Moon Darts, revealing a trooper. He plays Pickpocket, targeting Miles, and reveals a wound. He plays out and then recruits Flip Out, replacing it with another copy of Flip Out. He then takes out the Sentinel, rescuing a trooper, and KOs an agent. He passes. Harrison draws 2 agents, a trooper, Pickpocket, Leap from Above, Bioelectric Shock, and then a Chameleon from the villain deck. When we fight him, he will copy the effects of the hero card below it. He plays 2 agents and recruits Great Responsibility. It's replaced with Casual Bank Robbery. He plays Bioelectric Shock and drawing Great Responsibility. He plays it, revealing a wound. He plays Pickpocket, targeting Harrison, revealing a wound. He plays out and attacks Carnage for the 2nd time. He draws Endless Hunger. He feasts on a wound from each player. He passes. Harrison draws an agent, a trooper, Climbing Claws, Venom Blast, Flip Out, a wound, and then a Sandman from the villain deck, whose HP is twice the number of villains in the city, and if he escapes, each player will have to reveal an Instinct hero or gain a wound. He plays Venom Blast, revealing Moon Darts. He plays an activated Flip Out, drawing Moon Darts. He plays Moon Darts, revealing a trooper. He plays out and recruits Perfect Hunter, replacing it with Radioactive Spider. He passes. Miles draws an agent, a trooper, Pickpocket, Lunar Communion, Venom Blast, Pheromones, and then a Craven the Hunter from the villain deck. His HP is equal to the highest recruit cost in the HQ, and when he escapes, we KO that hero. He plays Venom Blast, revealing and drawing an agent. He places 2 agents and recruits Radioactive Spider to get a high attack bonus from the Pickpocket. It's replaced by Web Shooter. He plays Pickpocket, revealing Radioactive Spider. He plays out and attacks Carnage, drawing Om Nom Nom. He nabs an agent from Harrison and Radioactive Spider from Miles. Since 0 cost was KO'd, Harrison also KOs a bystander from his victory pile. He recruits Leap from Above, replacing it with Lunar Communion. He misses his Pheromones ability, and passes. Harrison draws 2 troopers, 2 Perfect Hunters, Pickpocket, Responsibility, and then a Shrike from the villain deck. It will feast when it's fought, and if it KOs a 0 cost hero, other players will gain a wound. If it escapes, each player gains a wound. He plays Perfect Hunter, drawing Moon Darts. Another Hunter will drop Flip Out. Flip Out draws Venom Blast. He plays Moon Darts and Responsibility. He attacks Carnage, winning the game. Wow, nearly perfect. You were able to stop Carnage before any humans fully transformed. Shield superiors are impressed to say at the least. You'll surely be commander of your own ship soon. You'll surely be commended for your efforts. There are some others who have recognized your valor and may be interested in joining your team. Write down, no mutated citizens. After the battle, Spider-Man leaps up to the rooftop of a nearby building. Eventually you make it up there and sit next to him, both of you dangling your feet off the builder's edge. You make small talk, commenting just how busy of a day it was. Yeah, but busy doesn't even describe it. Peter takes off his mask and sits there in silence, thinking about everything that happened today. We then go through each of our decisions made in the past couple missions, compiling a spirit score. I end with a spirit score of 0, just neutral. In the end, we were able to make a team change to our affiliation with Iron Man. We bring in Thor, replacing Black Cat. Thank you so much for joining me for another incredible game of Bageltop's Marvel Legendary campaign. We will continue our adventure with Spider-Man in our next video, where we will be facing off against Mysterio. I'll see you next time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.